Hello out there to you. In this video, we're going to think about elasticity of demand and do some calculations. So elasticity of demand is measuring how sensitive buyers are towards a price change in the market. Okay, so it's a ratio of relative change in quantity versus relative change in price, and usually we'll use percentages to figure that out. So if something is very sensitive to a price change, it has an elastic demand, and if something is very insensitive or doesn't change much after the price change, it has more of an inelastic demand. The number one determinant or number one thing that's going to change that elasticity is how many substitutes there are. So if something has a lot of substitutes, it's more elastic, and if something has no substitutes at all, it's going to be very inelastic. Okay, so now let's calculate the price elasticity of demand for each of these. And so you can build your own spreadsheet this way too. We're using Google Sheets for this, but you can use any other spreadsheet program if you want. So I'm going to type in all of the numbers from this table here for good X. So this would be, I'll just call this QD because that's quantity demanded. And 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then quantity is 200, 180, 150, 110, and 60. Okay, so now I've got that. I don't need that either. Okay, so the formula for elasticity of demand is let me type that, or not type it, but let me write it. It is price elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Now, percentage change by itself is a change in percent equals the new value, or the second value minus the old value, so new minus old, over old times 100. Okay, now that is the traditional way to calculate elasticity. There's also something called the midpoint method, and the midpoint method says I'm going to use the midpoint between those two prices or the midpoint between those two quantities. So for this one, if you wanted to use the midpoint method, it'll be the new value minus the old value over the midpoint between the two. Usually you can just eyeball the midpoint, and like if you were saying the midpoint between the two quantities, that's 190. Okay, midpoint between the two prices would be 750. Okay, so this would be the midpoint. If you really want to be specific about it, though, you can say the midpoint is the new value plus the old value divided by 2. You can just average those, and that gives that to you. So I'll put these right here. We'll make that a little smaller. Guess I don't have a white background on that. That's too bad. But there's our formulas right there. I suppose I could put one there, but whatever. Okay, let's do it without the midpoint. Okay, so what we want to do is I want the change in quantity as a percent. Really, I could put percent change in quantity, and then percent change in price. Okay, and then this will give me elasticity. Now I got to be going like up or down. So I wouldn't really start here. I would start right here. Okay, so I'm going to write a function. I say equals sign, and then I'm going to put it in parentheses because I want it to do that part first. So let's do without the midpoint method. So the new amount, I'm going down. Okay, going down the demand curve or increasing the price. So from here to here would be 180 minus this value here, and then I close the parentheses, and then I divide it by where I came from. Okay, and then I want all of this to be multiplied by 100, so I close the parentheses again, and you can too, and then I'll multiply, that's the star key, times 100. Okay, and that gives me a 10% decrease in quantity demanded. Okay. Now I can actually, it just popped up and wanted me to do that. I can change that, or I can copy that formula down. So that is a 16% change, that is a 26% change, and that is a 45% change. And then if I want to, because these are already in parentheses, I should be able to decrease. So if you click on this right here, not real sure why that's not working. Well, it seems to be stuck. I don't know why I can't decrease. There we go. I just wasn't moved over far enough. Okay. Okay, so those are the percent change in quantities, and then I'm going to write a new one for percent change in price. So I hit equal sign, and this is the new price minus the old price. I want to put those in parentheses. And then I divide it by the old price. And then I want to multiply the whole thing by 100. So times 100. And I can just copy that down. Oh, it doesn't like something like that. Why doesn't it like it? Where did I go wrong? B3. Okay, so I made a mistake there. I don't want B3. I want this price right here. I must have clicked on the wrong button there. Okay, so that's 14% change. I'll copy that all the way down, and we end up with all of those percents. So then I don't want all of those decimal places. So do it to one decimal place. It's a ratio we're looking for. Okay, so now back to this. It's the percent change in quantity over the percent change in price. You always get a negative number, so it would just be this divided by this, and you got your elasticities there. Okay, and I suppose we can accept that, and I will decrease the number of decimals. Okay, so the rules for elasticity are that if it is in absolute terms more than one, it's elastic, and less than one, it's inelastic. Okay, so these three here are elastic and elastic, and they're getting higher elasticity the further down you go. And then this one right here, this is inelastic. Okay, so the lower price is the inelastic range, and then the higher price you get into the elastic range. Okay, that's without the midpoint method. Then we can also do that with the midpoint method. So let's copy all this down here. And instead of dividing by this point, whoops, instead of dividing by this, which is that, that old value, I'm going to divide by halfway in between. So if you wanted the machine to do it for you, I guess you could write a new function. I could say this plus this, and then I want to put that in parentheses further. A lot of parentheses on this one. I'm going to multiply that by 0.5. Okay, you can multiply that by 1/2. 0.5 is 1/2. Okay, so I get a very similar number. This was 10% without the midpoint method. This is 10.5 with the midpoint method. Okay, so then I can copy that down, and notice the numbers are not too far off. Can't I? Again, I don't. Why do I have so many? There we go. Decimal places. You might have that problem too. Google Sheets, kind of picky about that. All right, so like this one was 0.1, 18%. That's 16%. This is 30%. That's 26%. See, it doesn't really matter, right? So I'll do the same thing with our price. So I want to average those prices. So we'll say, put it in parentheses, this plus this, and then multiply by 0.5. Put all that in parentheses so it doesn't get confused. If you do that, it'll do it as a standalone thing. And so now I've got a zero point 0.7. Oh wait, what did I? Okay, right here. I'm sorry. 13.3% instead of 14%. Okay. And oh, that's kind of smooth. That did that there, and so that's the trick. You got to make see what I'm doing? I'm grabbing that top part and making it wider. Okay. So instead of 0.7, we get 0.79. Instead of 0.13, we got 0.15. So see, the elasticities are the same. So you build yourself a little spreadsheet here, and then you can just copy that all the way down. Finally, last thing you might run it. Well, now we can probably end it here. This is just calculating the elasticity in Google Sheets, and that's how to set up your spreadsheet, whether you're not using the midpoint method or using the midpoint method. You just follow those steps, and you too can set up your elasticity calculator.